The massive dragon lay curled in the deepest cave of Mount Koroth, his obsidian scales dulled by centuries of sorrow. Vexthaner had once been the pride of the Draconic Empire, a creature whose very presence could shake mountains and whose roar could summon storms. Now, he was nothing more than a forgotten relic, abandoned by his own kind when the Great Exile began 300 years ago. The necklace around his neck felt heavier with each passing day. It was an ancient artifact, crafted from starlight metal and embedded with runes that pulsed with a faint blue glow. The Council of Dragons had placed it there as punishment for his greatest crime, showing mercy to humans during the War of Burning Skies. The necklace was meant to be his chain, binding his power and marking him as an outcast. But Vexthaner had long suspected there was more to it than mere punishment. The runes shifted and changed patterns daily, sometimes hourly. No dragon could read them, not even the eldest scholars. They had tried for decades before giving up and declaring the necklace a simple suppression device. But Vexthaner felt something different in those symbols. They whispered to him in dreams, showed him visions of distant stars and impossible technologies. There was intelligence behind those patterns, a message waiting to be understood. Thunder rumbled outside his cave as another storm approached the mountain. Vexthaner barely noticed anymore. Weather had become meaningless to him, just like time itself. Days blended into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years of solitude. He had tried to remove the necklace countless times, but it was fused to his very essence. Even his tremendous strength could not break the starlight metal. His stomach growled, reminding him that even ancient dragons needed sustenance. With a weary sigh that sent small rocks tumbling from the cave ceiling, Vexthaner uncurled his massive form and made his way to the cave entrance. The world outside had changed dramatically since his exile began. Where once there had been endless forests, now strange structures dotted the landscape. Humans had multiplied and spread like seeds on the wind, building their settlements ever closer to the forbidden mountain ranges. As he took flight on wings that spanned nearly 200 feet, Vexthaner couldn't help but admire human tenacity. They were such fragile creatures, living such brief lives, yet they accomplished remarkable things. Perhaps that was why he had shown them mercy all those centuries ago. There was something beautiful about beings who created so much meaning in such short existences. He soared over a valley where a small human settlement had sprung up near a river. Smoke rose from chimneys, and he could see tiny figures moving about their daily tasks. His enhanced hearing picked up fragments of conversation, laughter, and the sound of children playing. It had been so long since he had heard genuine joy that the sound almost brought tears to his ancient eyes. Following the river upstream, Vexthaner spotted what he was looking for, a small herd of wild deer grazing near the water's edge. He descended silently, his hunting instincts still sharp despite his emotional numbness. The deer never knew what happened as he took what he needed with swift precision. He had learned long ago to take only what was necessary, never more than the ecosystem could spare. As he prepared to return to his cave, a sound caught his attention. It was faint, almost masked by the rushing water, but distinctly human. Someone was crying. Vexthaner's curiosity overcame his desire for solitude, and he crept closer to investigate. Hidden behind a cluster of boulders near the riverbank was a human child, a boy who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His clothes were torn and dirty, suggesting he had been traveling for some time. Tears streaked down his face as he clutched a small bundle to his chest. The child was clearly lost and alone, just as Vexthaner was, though for very different reasons. The dragon remained hidden, observing the boy with growing interest. There was something unusual about this human child. While most humans radiated fear and chaos in their emotional signatures, this boy emanated something different. Beneath his obvious distress, there was a calm intelligence, a sense of purpose that seemed far too mature for his apparent age. The boy pulled out what appeared to be a book from his bundle and began studying symbols drawn on its pages. Even from a distance, Vexthaner could see that these were not ordinary human letters. They looked almost like the runes on his necklace, though simpler and more geometric. The child traced the symbols with his finger, muttering words in a language the dragon didn't recognize. Suddenly, the necklace around Vexthaner's neck began to pulse more rapidly, its blue glow intensifying. The runes on its surface shifted and rearranged themselves in patterns he had never seen before. For the first time in 3 centuries, the ancient artifact was reacting to something in the outside world. The boy continued studying his book, completely unaware that his presence was causing a reaction in an object of immense magical power. Vexthaner's heart began to race with an emotion he thought he had forgotten: hope. Could this strange human child be connected to his necklace somehow? Was it possible that after all these years of isolation, someone might finally be able to help him understand the mystery that bound him? The boy looked up from his book and gazed directly at the boulder where Vexthaner was hiding. For a moment, their eyes met across the distance. The child showed no fear, only curiosity. He tilted his head slightly, as if sensing something unusual in the air, then returned to his studies with renewed focus. Vexthaner made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Instead of retreating to his cave as he had done for 300 years, he stepped out from behind the boulder and revealed himself to the human child. His massive form cast a shadow over the riverbank as he approached slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements that might frighten the boy. The child looked up again, this time seeing the dragon in full view. To Vexthaner's amazement, the boy didn't scream or run. Instead, he closed his book, stood up, and walked closer to the ancient creature. The necklace's glow became so bright that it illuminated the gathering dusk, and the runes spun faster than they ever had before. "You're hurt," the boy said in the common human tongue, his voice soft but steady. "Not on the outside, but inside. I can see it in your eyes." Vexthaner was so stunned by this observation that he almost forgot to lower his massive head closer to the child's level. When he finally did, the boy reached out without hesitation and gently touched the glowing necklace. The moment the child's fingers made contact with the starlight metal, both the dragon and the boy were engulfed in a brilliant flash of blue light. When the light faded, they found themselves standing in what appeared to be a vast library that existed somewhere between dimensions. Endless shelves of books and scrolls stretched in all directions, filled with the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. "Welcome," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The bond has finally been activated. The time for understanding has begun." Vexthaner looked down at the human child with new respect. Somehow, this lost boy held the key to unlocking not just the mystery of his necklace, but perhaps the purpose of his entire existence. The dragon's centuries of loneliness had not been in vain, they had been preparation for this moment, this meeting that would reshape the destiny of both their species. The boy smiled up at him, no longer looking lost or afraid. "My name is Marcus," he said. "And I think I'm here to help you remember who you really are." As the dimensional library shimmered around them, filled with secrets waiting to be discovered, Vexthaner felt something he hadn't experienced in 300 years, the genuine desire to learn, to grow, and to hope for a better tomorrow. The abandoned dragon had found his purpose at last, and it came in the most unexpected form imaginable, a human child with the power to read the language of the stars. The dimensional library existed outside normal space and time, its crystalline walls pulsing with soft light that seemed to respond to their thoughts. Marcus walked among the towering shelves with the confidence of someone who belonged there, while Vexthaner followed more cautiously, his massive form somehow fitting perfectly in the impossible space. "The keepers built this place long before dragons or humans ever existed," Marcus explained, running his small hand along the spine of an ancient tome. "They were the first species to achieve true understanding between mind and matter, thought and reality. When they transcended physical existence, they left behind knowledge for those who would come after." Vexthaner's voice rumbled through the library like distant thunder. "How do you know all this, child? And why can you read the runes on my necklace when even the eldest dragons could not?" Marcus smiled, pulling a book from the shelf that glowed with the same blue light as the necklace. "Because I'm not entirely human, though I didn't know it until I found you. My mother was a keeper descendant, one of the few who chose to remain in physical form. She taught me their language before she died, but I never understood why until now." The book opened itself as Marcus held it, pages fluttering to reveal complex diagrams showing the connection between different species across the galaxy. Dragons, humans, and dozens of other intelligent life forms were all connected by flowing lines of energy, with the keepers at the center as the original source. "The necklace isn't a punishment device," Marcus continued, his voice taking on an otherworldly quality as knowledge flowed through him from the keeper archives. "It's a communication array, designed to find and connect with beings who possess the complementary genetic markers. Dragons have the power to channel cosmic energies, but they lack the neural pathways needed to interpret Keeper technology. Humans have the right brain structure but lack the raw power to activate it. Vexthaner studied the diagrams intently, pieces of a cosmic puzzle finally beginning to fall into place. So the Council of Dragons never understood what they were placing around my neck. They thought they were punishing me, but they were actually preparing me for a greater purpose. Exactly, Marcus said, moving to another section of the library where star charts covered the walls. The War of Burning Skies wasn't just a conflict between dragons and humans. It was orchestrated by an external force, the Devourers, an ancient enemy of the Keepers who consumed the life energy of entire worlds. They manipulated both species into fighting each other to weaken the galaxy's defenses. The star charts began to move, showing the advance of dark entities across distant galaxies. Entire star systems went dark as the Devourers passed through them, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Vexthaner felt a chill run through his ancient bones as he realized the scope of the threat. The Keepers knew this day would come, Marcus continued. They scattered these communication arrays across the galaxy, hidden as punishment devices, religious artifacts, and forgotten relics. Each one was designed to activate only when the right combination of species traits came together. You and I are just one of many teams they hoped would form when the time came. Vexthaner lowered his great head until he was eye level with the boy. Then, my exile, my centuries of loneliness and pain, it was all preparation for this moment? Marcus nodded solemnly. The isolation made you strong, made you independent of Dragon Society's limitations. You learned to think for yourself, to question their assumptions. That's why you showed mercy to humans during the war. You could see beyond the artificial divisions the Devourers created. The necklace around Vexthaner's neck began to project a three-dimensional map of the local galaxy. Red dots indicated Devourer activity, while blue dots showed the locations of other Keeper communication arrays. Most of the blue dots were dim or dark, suggesting their guardian species had not yet made contact or had failed to activate their arrays. How many teams have successfully bonded? Vexthaner asked, studying the map with growing concern. Marcus touched several points on the projection, causing them to pulse with brighter light. Only 12 out of several thousand arrays have been activated. We're among the first, but we need to find the others quickly. The Devourers have already consumed 3 galaxies and are moving toward this one. They spend hours in the dimensional library, absorbing knowledge that had been waiting eons for the right minds to receive it. Marcus learned to channel Vexthaner's draconic power through the Keeper technology, while the ancient dragon discovered new ways to focus his abilities through the mathematical precision of human thought patterns. We need to return to your world, Marcus finally said, closing the last of the ancient texts they had studied. There's something I need to retrieve from my village before we can begin our real mission. The library began to fade around them as the necklace's glow dimmed to its normal level. They found themselves back by the river, but something had changed. Vexthaner's scales now held a subtle blue shimmer that hadn't been there before, and Marcus's eyes held flecks of gold that reflected his connection to draconic power. The bonding has changed us both, Vexthaner observed, examining his transformed appearance in the river's surface. I can feel your thoughts at the edge of my mind, and something tells me you can sense my emotions. Marcus nodded, his face showing a maturity that seemed far beyond his years. The Keepers designed the bonding to create a true partnership. We're still separate beings, but we're also something new together. Something the Devourers have never encountered before. They traveled together toward Marcus's village, the dragon flying low to avoid being seen while maintaining communication with the boy through their newly established mental link. Vexthaner was amazed by the complexity of human settlements when viewed through Marcus's understanding. What had once seemed like chaotic clusters of buildings now revealed themselves as intricate networks of cooperation and shared purpose. Humans are remarkable, he admitted as they approached the village. I always admired your species' tenacity, but I never understood the depth of your social bonds. Marcus guided them to a small cottage on the village outskirts where he had lived with his mother before her death. Hidden beneath the floorboards was a collection of artifacts his mother had left behind, Keeper devices disguised as simple tools and jewelry. She knew this day would come, Marcus explained, gathering the artifacts into his bag. She prepared me as much as she could, but she said the real learning would begin when I found my dragon partner. As they prepared to leave the village, alarm bells began ringing in the distance. Vexthaner's enhanced hearing picked up shouting voices and the sound of running feet. Through their mental link, Marcus shared what he was sensing: fear, confusion, and something else. Something dark and hungry approaching from the sky. "They're here," Marcus said, his face pale with sudden realization. "The Devourers have found Earth." Vexthaner's eyes blazed with ancient fire as he prepared for battle. "Then, it begins sooner than we hoped. Are you ready for this, young partner?" Marcus clutched the Keeper artifacts to his chest and nodded with determination that would have impressed warriors 10 times his age. "I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it until now." Above them, the sky began to darken as shapes that shouldn't exist in normal space descended toward the village. The first test of their newfound partnership was about to begin, and the fate of Earth might depend on how well an abandoned dragon and a lost human boy could work together against an enemy that had devoured entire galaxies. The necklace pulsed with urgent light, its runes spinning faster as it detected the approaching threat. For the first time in centuries, Vexthaner felt truly alive. His exile was over, his purpose was clear, and he was no longer alone in the vast darkness of the universe. The real adventure was just beginning. The Devourer scouts descended from the darkening sky like nightmarish shadows given form. They were creatures of pure hunger, shifting masses of darkness that absorbed light and heat from everything they touched. Where they passed, plants withered and died, and the very air grew cold with the absence of life force. Vexthaner spread his wings wide, positioning himself between the approaching entities and Marcus's village. The necklace around his neck blazed with brilliant blue light as Marcus activated the Keeper artifacts, creating a protective barrier around them both. "Remember what we learned in the library," Marcus called out, his voice steady despite the terror surrounding them. "They feed on life energy, but they can't process the harmonized frequencies we can create together." The first Devourer struck like a lightning bolt of pure darkness, but instead of the devastating impact it expected, it met a wall of crystalline energy that Vexthaner and Marcus had woven together. The creature recoiled with a shriek that sounded like reality being torn apart. Through their mental link, dragon and boy worked as one mind in 2 bodies. Vexthaner provided the raw power while Marcus shaped it with mathematical precision learned from the Keeper archives. Their combined abilities created something neither species had achieved alone: controlled cosmic energy that could exist in normal space without destroying everything around it. The battle was intense but brief. The Devourer scouts had expected to face primitive life forms with no knowledge of their nature or weaknesses. Instead, they encountered a force they couldn't understand or consume. One by one, they were driven back into the dark spaces between dimensions, their assault broken by the unexpected resistance. As the last of the invaders fled, the villagers emerged from their hiding places to see Vexthaner and Marcus standing together in the center of a circle of pure crystal that had formed where their energies touched the ground. The dragon's massive form was wreathed in blue fire that didn't burn, while the boy held artifacts that pulsed with the rhythm of distant stars. "The real invasion hasn't begun yet," Marcus said, studying readings from one of the Keeper devices. "These were just scouts, testing Earth's defenses. The main Devourer fleet is still months away, but they know we're here now." Vexthaner nodded grimly. "Then, we need to find the other bonded teams quickly. 12 awakened arrays won't be enough to stop a full Devourer assault, but they might be enough to coordinate a galaxy-wide defense." Over the following weeks, they began their search across Earth and beyond. Using the necklace as a beacon, they made contact with other dragon-human pairs who had recently bonded. Each team brought unique strengths, some specialized in technological integration, others in biological adaptation, and still others in pure combat effectiveness. Their first major success came in the mountains of Tibet, where an ancient red dragon named Pyraxis had bonded with a young engineer named Sarah Chen. Sarah had been studying quantum physics when her dragon partner emerged from a hidden cave, drawn by her experiments with dimensional resonance. Together, they had learned to create stable wormholes that could transport matter across vast distances instantly. The Keepers scattered more than just communication arrays, Sarah explained during their first joint meeting in the Dimensional Library. They left transportation nodes, energy amplifiers, and even weapon systems. But everything requires bonded teams to activate. The next team they found was in the Amazon rainforest, where an emerald dragon named Viridian had partnered with a botanist named Dr. Maria Santos. Their specialty was biological enhancement. They could accelerate evolution, strengthen immune systems, and even resurrect extinct species using preserved genetic material. The Devourers aren't just consuming life energy, Maria reported. They're poisoning the quantum substrate that life depends on. Every world they drain becomes permanently barren, unable to support any form of existence. But we've found a way to reverse some of the damage. As more teams joined their growing alliance, a picture began to emerge of the Keeper's true plan. They hadn't just scattered random artifacts across the galaxy, they had created a comprehensive defense network designed to activate only when civilizations reached sufficient maturity to use it responsibly. The 12 active teams represented different aspects of cosmic defense. Some could manipulate space and time, others could heal damaged worlds, and still others could create weapons that worked on principles the Devourers couldn't adapt to. But all of them required the unique combination of draconic power and human ingenuity to function. We're not just fighting for Earth, Marcus realized during one of their planning sessions. We're the prototype for something bigger. If we succeed here, we can teach other galaxies how to defend themselves. Vex Thaner had found new purpose beyond anything he could have imagined during his centuries of exile. He was no longer an abandoned outcast, but the leader of a new kind of guardian force. His experience with loneliness and loss had taught him patience and wisdom that proved invaluable in coordinating the diverse teams. The final test came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected the main Devourer fleet approaching the solar system, a massive armada that had consumed dozens of star systems on its way to Earth. It was larger than anything they had prepared for, but Marcus had discovered something crucial in the Keeper archives. The Devourers aren't invincible, he announced to the assembled teams. They're parasites that became so dependent on consuming other life forms that they lost the ability to create anything new. That's their weakness, they can only copy and corrupt existing patterns. The battle for Earth's solar system lasted 3 days and reshaped the understanding of what was possible when different species worked in true harmony. The dragon-human teams created defensive formations that bent the laws of physics, turning the void between planets into a maze of crystalline barriers and energy fields. Vex Thaner and Marcus led the central assault, diving directly into the heart of the Devourer fleet with a strategy that seemed like madness but was actually brilliant. Instead of fighting the creature's hunger, they fed it, but with carefully crafted energy patterns that contained hidden viruses designed to restore the Devourer's lost capacity for creation. The transformation was spectacular. As the corrupted energy patterns spread through their fleet, the Devourers began to remember what they had been before becoming parasites. They had once been builders and gardeners of galaxies, creators of beauty rather than destroyers of life. The realization of what they had become caused their entire civilization to collapse into chaos. Some fled to distant galaxies, seeking empty space where they could begin the long process of learning to create again. Others chose to remain and help repair the damage they had caused. A few, too deeply corrupted to change, were contained in specially designed dimensional prisons where they could do no further harm. In the aftermath of victory, Earth became the center of a new galactic alliance. The dragon-human teams established academies where other species could learn to form similar partnerships, unlocking Keeper technologies hidden throughout the galaxy. What had begun as a desperate defense became the foundation for a new age of cooperation and exploration. Vex Thaner often returned to his old cave on Mount Karath, but now it served as a place of meditation rather than exile. The necklace around his neck had evolved, its runes now displaying real-time information about the health and progress of worlds across the galaxy. Marcus, no longer a lost boy but a young man with the wisdom of ages, had established the first human dragon academy in the valley below. Students of both species came from across the galaxy to learn the principles of harmonized consciousness that made their partnership possible. "Do you ever regret the centuries you spent alone?" Marcus asked during one of their quiet moments together, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Vex Thaner considered the question carefully. Every moment of pain and loneliness led to this point. Without that experience, I wouldn't have been ready to see past the artificial barriers between our species. The Keepers knew that true wisdom often comes through suffering, but also that suffering without purpose is merely waste. Together, they had proved that hope could survive even the darkest circumstances, that connection could bridge any gap, and that the universe itself favored those who chose cooperation over conquest. The abandoned dragon had found not just hope, but a new definition of family that spanned species and star systems. The necklace pulsed gently around Vexthaner's neck, no longer a burden but a badge of honor. In its light, he could see the future, countless worlds where dragons and humans and dozens of other species worked together to build something greater than any of them could achieve alone. The boy who had deciphered the ancient runes had unlocked more than just their meaning. He had revealed the truth that the Keepers had hidden in plain sight across the galaxy, that the greatest power in the universe was not the ability to destroy, but the courage to trust, to hope, and to build bridges where others saw only empty space. As night fell over Earth, similar lights began to shine from worlds across the galaxy, each one representing a new partnership formed and a new hope kindled. The age of isolation was ending, and the age of connection had begun. The abandoned dragon and the lost boy had shown the way forward, and the universe itself was eager to follow.